Hi everyone. This is the second presentation under negative population, interspecific population interactions. And in this presentation, we will be dealing with predation as a antagonistic. So, what is predation? Predation is an antagonistic relation in which one species is preys upon the other. Okay, it feeds upon the other. So, the relation between the two species in the relation is actually feeding and being fed. So, that is a relation. And here, what happens is the one which is feeding is actually referred as a predator, and the one which is getting fed is actually the being fed is actually the prey. So you can see here the predator is getting benefited while the prey is getting harmed. It loses its life, isn't it? So the predator usually in this particular relation, predator tends to be larger than the prey. And predatory animals, they do have certain characteristic features or characteristic adaptations. For example, the predator need to have a high hunting ability. They need to have a high searching ability. Then they need to have certain camouflaging features so that the prey doesn't come to know their presence in their vicinity. So such kind of characteristic adaptive features should be there in the predator. Similarly, you can see the predator-prey relations depends upon two factors. One is the vulnerability of prey to predation. This how vulnerable the prey is to getting predated upon in its habitat. For example, in some cases you can see, for instance, in the case of certain larvae, the butterfly larvae, you can see they are so camouflaging that maybe, for example, it may look like a dry twig, or it may look like dry leaves, or even like in the case of like green leaves of a plant and all that, you may not be able to detect its presence in the particular ecosystem, and it may escape to some it may escape the being detected by the predator. So that kind of a escape mechanism is also developed in the case of preys or prey animals, so that it escapes predation. And similarly, predators also develop certain kinds of adaptive features to get on, like hunt down the prey. For example, you may have seen praying mantis and all. They are good predators in an ecosystem, in a normal ecosystem. It keeps the other insect population under check. So especially the mantis and all, it is considered as a very good biocontrol agents. Now coming back to the mantis, it can remain in a particular area without getting detected because of its coloration, because of its the nature of wings, the pattern on the wings. It looks almost, some of the species and mantis, it may look very similar to green leaves of a plant. So what happens is it may get undetected, and it can remain in a particular position for a very long period of time. You may have seen the chameleons and all, isn't it? The garden lizards, the chameleon and all. It can remain on in a particular position for quite a long time without getting any, without showing any movement. And even if it is moving, it's so slow that it becomes undetected. Right, so that is a mechanism which is evolved by predators. So this kind of a mutual evolutionary mechanism is also found over there with respect to the prey and predator. What do you call, adaptive features. Okay. Now, level of energy of flow. If we speak about, there are two kinds of predation we can see in an ecosystem. One is herbivory, the other is carnivory. Herbivory, where the animals feed upon plants. So it does belong to two different species. Then carnivory, where an animal feed upon another animal, both included under different species. So here you can see these two, when we compare these two kinds of predations, obviously in the herbivory, the energy flow is actually more efficient than in the carnivory. The reason is in herbivorous predation, you can see that more amount of energy is transmitted, more amount of energy reaches the herbivorous or predator. Okay, in the case of carnivorous predation, the predator gets a lesser amount of energy as compared with the first one. So that level of energy of flow from prey to predator, it varies, right? So that is another thing. That is why we can see that in a food chain, when we take the number of members in a food chain is usually restricted to 4 or 5. Beyond that, what happens is it is actually energy inefficient process. Okay, now what is the significance of predation in an ecosystem? Um, the predation, actually you can see, um, uh, it is significant in both ecological as well as evolutionary perspective. It is ecologically important as it regulates the population size and thereby maintains a natural equilibrium or natural balance. You can see there is always a dynamic balance between the population densities of the predator population as well as the prey population. Why is it dynamic balance? Because with every increase in the prey population, you can see there is a corresponding increase in the predator population, right? Once a particular level population size is reached and the predator feeds upon the prey, what happens is, so automatically there will be a decline in the prey population, and with this decrease there will be a corresponding decrease in the population size of the predator as well. So there is a dynamic balance. Okay, so an increase or decrease in the population size of prey population causes a corresponding increase or decrease in the population size of the predator. On the other hand, an increase in the size of the predator population decreases the size of the prey population. And a decrease in the size of the predator population increases the size of the prey population. I hope it is clear. That is, for example, if you are taking the examples of a deer and a tiger, whenever there is a rise in the population of deer, there will be a corresponding whenever there is an increase in population of deer, there will be an increase in population of tigers, because tigers are getting plenty of food. So obviously it is in a very favorable what do you call natural condition. So its survival as well as its reproductive capacity will be increased, so it will have a like increase in population size. Now, when the tiger population increases, what happens is more number of deer will be killed for eating, right? So, what happens to the population size of the deer? It will slowly come down. And what happens is once the deer population starts to decline, this is going to affect the tiger population, because among the tiger population there will be competition for the food, which is decreasing. The deer population is decreasing, isn't it? So what happens? The population size slowly the population size of the tiger, it starts to show a decline, right? So there will be a corresponding decrease in the amount, the number of population size of the tigers as well, right? So this is the connection. Now we can see the other way. That is, whenever there is a increase in the predator population, there will be a decrease in the uh, uh, prey population. That is, whenever there is a decrease in the population of tigers, obviously more number of deers will be killed. So the population of these will come down. So the connection, I suppose it is clear. So this way, the prey and the predator population size is kept in balance. Okay. So always there will be a balance. So this keeps on oscillating. Okay. We'll see it in detail in a graph later. Now, so there is a what do you call ecological importance with respect to the predation, right? Now, this oscillation, actually, this interaction, it helps in keeping a balanced or what do you call steady state condition, right? Now, what is with respect to evolution? How was it so important? Predation, it actually promotes specialized adaptations in predator and prey population. So, as we have seen, predators, it starts to specialize like for defending or escaping. Sorry, predators, it actually develops adaptive features for hunting down the prey, while at the same time the prey, it specializes for developing adaptive features for escaping predation or for defending predation. Okay, it includes many characters which we have already, a few examples which we have already seen, right? So these specializations, it produces variations among the population and thereby increases the fitness. So only the best one which can survive in the predation can be left out. Those predators which develop these what do you call adaptive features, advantages for their hunting ability, it will survive. Those prey populations which can actually develop adaptive features to escape from predation will survive. So that kind of a what do you call specializations, these kinds of specialization, it help in increasing the survival value, and also it helps in promoting the evolutionary potentialities. So to some extent we can say that it will help in a co-evolution, predator and prey, it can evolve together, so it is a co-evolution, right? Now, when we speak about this predation law, every time two populations are interacting, and the population size of one species is going to affect the population size of the other. That is what we have seen. So, this kind of an interaction and the what you call effect of change in the population size of one species, how it is going to affect the population size of the like other one. That was actually studied and mathematically put forward by Lotka-Volterra. Okay, and his model is referred as Lotka-Volterra model. So, okay, so Lotka and Volterra in 1925, they formulated a, a theoretical relationship between the prey population and predator population in ecosystem, and they attempted to show that the predator population, as the predator population increases, the prey population decreases to the point where the trends are reversed. That is, the prey population increases and the predator population decreases. So such kind of a what do you call oscillations up continue to maintain the natural balance in an ecosystem, and that was actually this kind of a relation was actually developed by Lotka and Volterra, and they came up with a model to explain this interrelation. Now, what were their assumptions? Uh, Based on their mathematical studies and their mathematical model, the assumptions with respect to the predator-prey populations and interactions where the prey-predator interaction is a dynamic equilibrium. That is, whenever there is an increase in prey population, a corresponding increase in predator population is also found. Obviously, it may take some time to develop that increase in population size, but the prey population increase always corresponds with a what do you call predator population increase. And the second one is like there is a direct relation between the number of the predator and number of its prey. In every ecosystem, whatever be the predator and prey pair, we can see that there is a direct relation between their population sizes. Right now, the prey population it grows exponentially in the absence of predators. So just like as we have seen the population growth curve, there is always, whether it is a J-shaped curve or a S-shaped curve, you can see that there is always a increase in population size whenever the surrounding environment provides a favorable condition for the growth of the particular species. So this in the absence of predators, when there is no negative what they call force acting upon the prey species, the prey population grows exponentially as based upon their biotic potential, right? Predator population it declines geometrically in the absence of prey. So when the food is not available, when there is a condition where food is not available sufficient enough for the sustenance of the predator species, what happens is the predator population declines geometrically, and that can be found corresponding to the decrease in the prey population. So that kind of a relation is what is found, and these are the assumptions which were put forward by the Lotka-Volterra model. So we can find that we can conclude that growth of the predator population, the population growth of the predator species, is actually a function of the prey population. Function of prey population means when whatever changes happen with respect to the prey population, similar corresponding kind of changes can be found in the predator population as well. So that kind of a relationship can be seen. Okay, so this is the kind of oscillation. So the blue curve, it shows the population size, change in the population size of the prey species, while the red curve shows the change in the population size of the predator species. Here you can see initially the prey population actually it is very low as compared with the predator population. Why so? Because the predator population it is high in number, and it feeds upon the prey population, keeps the number low, keeps the number of the prey species low. Okay, but what happens is When the prey species, the number reduces to an extent that it is not sufficient for the predators to survive, what happens is the predator population slowly and comes to a decline, right? That you can see the what you call the red curve, which represents the predator. It is coming down, isn't it? Initially, it comes down. Gradually, it comes down. Now, the predator population comes to a level where the number of predators is less, and hence, with respect to the prey species, it has very less number of predating chances of getting predated upon or fed upon. So it slowly start to increase, okay, and then gradually picks up the population size, and it increases to a level where you can see it is marked the first major what you call curve at the top, the blue curve. So it reaches the topper level, maximum level. Okay, that is a maximum population size possible. But when there is a population size increase, what happens is the predator finds more and more food, right? So slowly and slowly, the population size of the predator starts to pick up. Okay, so correspondingly, there is an increase in the population of the predator. So when the predator population increases, the more number of prey species it is getting eaten up, and slowly what happens is at a particular level, when the predator population is maximum, uh, that can survive in the particular ecosystem. What happens? It feeds upon maximum number of prey species, and slowly it brings down the population size of the prey. The number of prey species comes down, and when this happens again, the predator population is affected. Now the predator gets less scarce food, and it have intense competition, intra-specific competition for the food, and slowly the number of predators comes down. So this kind of an oscillation, it keeps going on in the ecosystem, and this actually helps in maintaining the population size and the population size of the prey and the predator at a particular level. Okay, so it can be called as at a carrying capacity level. So this is actually what is referred and it is being presented through Lotka-Volterra model. So Lotka-Volterra model actually predicts the cyclic oscillations or fluctuations in the growth of predator and prey populations, and it reveals that an increased abundance of the prey would be followed by an increase of predators. An increase and what happens is an increased abundance of predators would be followed by a decrease of the prey, isn't it? When the prey is numerous and the predators are scarce, what happens to the predator population? Slowly the predator population starts to increase, isn't it? So when the prey is numerous and initially when the predators are scarce, what happens is the predator starts to feed upon the prey. Okay, it gets more food. So the predator population slowly starts to pick up the size. So it quickly grows high in number, and this actually leads to reduction in the prey population. Eventually, the predators become numerous and the prey becomes scarce. Now, the predators compete with each other for the prey, and this actually leads to heavy mortality from starvation, and obviously the population comes to a decline. Now, this reduces the predation pressure on the prey. As a result, the prey population expands again, completes the cycle. And this cyclic fluctuations is possible only in an ideal environment. And this is what is explained through this graph, and this is what is explained by the mathematical model which is put forward by Lotka and Voltaire. Okay, here you can see with an example hare and linnets. The hare is the prey and the linnets is the predator. And here you can see with increased prey populations, there is an increase in predator population. Predators survive and reproduce, isn't it? Because there is sufficient amount of food available. There is no competition among the predator species for food. So the predators, they survive and reproduce in a huge number. Now, increased predator populations actually affect negatively the prey population. Now, the prey, it comes down, the size comes down. As a result, the predator starts to compete for the food. It starves and die off. So, the population decreases. The decreased predator population increases the. So, this kind of a cycle is maintained. Oscillation is maintained. Okay. Now, this we have already seen that they do have predation has a huge evolutionary importance as well, and Darwin also had said that competition as well as predator has a key role in evolution. And you can see natural selection, it leads to evolution of adaptations to make predators better hunters. Similarly, it also helps the prey to develop adaptive features to escape or to defend by getting predated upon. So individuals who are better at catching prey, they live longer and they get adapted, they develop, they give rise to better offsprings, and they care offsprings for a longer period of time. uh, the prey face strong selection pressures and they are at risk of immediate death. So what happens? Prey develop defense mechanisms or camouflaging mechanisms or escape mechanisms against being eaten by the predator. So these two develop together. Okay, so this is what we refer as the co-evolution. Okay, now what are the different kinds of predation? Okay, there are four kinds of predation. The first one is herbivory. It is a predation in which animals feed on like plants. Okay, it could be leaves, barks, flowers. Okay, any plant parts. And in this case, plants are not usually killed, but only damaged in certain cases, some cases. But usually the plants can reemerge. Now, the second one is carnivory. Here it is predation in which animals prey upon other animals. Any stages of other animals are being fed by in the carnivory. Cannibalism is a special type of carnivory in which the predator and the prey belong to the same species or a closely related species. Okay, feeding upon the members of the same species. That is what is cannibalism. That is also found in certain groups of animals. Right. Now, the last one is parasitoidism. Okay, it is actually insect parasitism. Here, it is a special type of predation in which a parasitic insect lays its eggs on or near certain host insects, which would be subsequently killed and eaten by the developing larvae. We'll be seeing the example. Okay, so you can see here. Here you can see herbivory. So here you can see that it is butterfly larvae, and in the case of butterfly, only the larvae is herbivory, showing herbivory or predatory habit. While the adult butterfly, it doesn't kill anyone, isn't it? It doesn't. It is nectar feeding. So what happens is here only the larvae is predatory. So herbivory, it is widely seen in what you call first trophic the animals belonging to first trophic level. And in herbivory, what happens is it is not killing the plant, but it affects its growth and survival for a small period of time. And what happens with the respect of plants? They develop certain what you call defense mechanisms. For example, certain adaptive features like thorns, spines, even produces certain chemicals which make renders it distasteful, so the animals doesn't feed it. And such kind of adaptive features are developed by the plants to avoid or to escape herbivorous predation. Yeah, here it is carnivore. So different kinds of hunting mechanism, different kinds of hunting, what you call, carnivorous animals can be found over here. This is just few examples. You can see pride of lion attacking the wild boar. Yeah. Okay, parasitism. So this is what we were discussing. Insects that parasitize other insects, parasitoidism. And it is not parasitic. In parasitism, what happens is why it is not a parasite, why it is not considered as a parasite. In the case of parasite, the host need to survive for the survival of the parasite. If the host doesn't survive, the parasite is affected, isn't it? So the parasite, it lives in the host in such a way that the host doesn't get killed. It will survive. But in the case of predation, what happens is predation kills the prey, isn't it? Predator kills the prey. So it is predator needing keep the prey for the survival of itself. So here what happens is in the case of parasitoidism, actually the host is getting killed. That is why it is included under predation and not under parasitism. Okay. Now here you can see one example. You can see a green caterpillar, isn't it? A green caterpillar lodged on a stem, right? Both the figures shows similar this one, the caterpillar, and you can see small white oval structures attached onto its surface, body surface, isn't it? And if you look keenly onto the first figure, you can see a black small insect among that white oval structures, right? Actually, that is the parasitoid. Okay, it is an insect, parasitoid insect maybe. Okay, so what happens is the parasitoid insect, it lays eggs in the caterpillar. Okay, eggs are laid in the caterpillar. When the caterpillar was at an early stage, the eggs are laid. Parasitoid eggs are laid. Okay, and these eggs they hatch out into larvae. The larva may have fed the complete body part inside the larva. Inside this, the parasitoid larva may have fed upon the internal parts of the caterpillar larva. I hope it is clear. Okay, the parasitoid larva feeds upon the internal organs of the caterpillar larva. Okay, now the caterpillar. Now what happens is when the parasitoid larva is ready to pupate, the these parasitoid larva it will come out and it will pupate in this way. So what you can see in these in the figure, the white structures, it is actually the pupae. So it is pupating outside. By the time the life cycle of the parasitoid has reached the what you call pupa, the butterfly larva, the caterpillar may also have completed its larval life. But once the parasitoid larva it goes on into the pupal stage, it may have almost eaten up all the internal organs of the caterpillar. So what happens? The caterpillar cannot go into the next stage. So this is what happens over here. So it kills the larva and then it had pupated over here. So I hope it is clear. Parasitoids here what happens is the parasitic insects may have laid its egg and on the on host insect, and these would during its lifetime, during the parasitoid life, what happens is it usually kills the host insect, right? So once it emerges out, the caterpillar may have already got killed. So this is an example of parasitoidism where the predator and the prey, it belongs to the same class, that is both are insects, fine. And the parasitoid it kills the prey, that is a caterpillar here, fine. So these are the okay, with this we have completed the two different types of interspecific negative interactions, that is a competition as well as predation. And we have one more population interactions left over, that is a parasitism, which we will be looking it into detail in the next presentation. Thank you.